What would you say to people about experiencing grief or paying attention maybe to some of the symptoms they might be having that would indicate that it would help them to talk to somebody?
Yeah. Well, grief is something that's universal. Everybody on this planet is going to experience grief and loss at some time. And even though it is a universal experience, each one of us has to go through it individually. So it is a process. It is a journey that we go on, and it's an uncomfortable journey. It's a painful journey, and that's why we don't talk about it too much in the media. We don't talk about it in our homes very much. We talk a lot about death, or we talk about whatever's on the news, the wars or the violence or whatever, but really how to deal with the pain of grief and loss is a topic that is very uncomfortable. And our society has done a great job at communicating what to do if we have a first aid need. So if someone got a cut, we know to apply pressure. If we got to get a burn, we know to put the finger underneath the water. If there's a broken arm, we set a splint. So we've been really good at educating our society about first aid. But what do you do when someone has a broken heart? There isn't a manual per se, on how to heal a broken heart. So when we experience that grief and we experience that pain, there's a lot of questions that go along with that, and we're trying to discover how did this happen, how are we going through it, and maybe you are experiencing some symptoms like you're crying all the time, or maybe you just have no emotions. And so there's a lot of different symptoms of grief. No one grieves the same. Everyone grieves their relationship with the person differently. So even though there may be a death in the family, the spouse is going to grieve one way, the children are going to grieve one way, the siblings, brothers and sisters are going to grieve one way. Each one of us is going to grieve differently because each one had a different relationship there. So the pain aspect is going to be different. So we really can't or shouldn't judge and say, you're not experiencing emotion or you're experiencing too much emotion, because everyone kind of grieves differently. But just having an understanding of what some of the symptoms of grief are is very beneficial. So naturally, the way that our bodies react to pain is tears. Tears are a way to relieve stress. It's a way to relieve stress in our body, but whenever there's pain, it's just natural for us to cry. But also isolation. Sometimes individuals go and they isolate themselves. They don't want to be around anyone. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to isolate themselves. And another symptom of grief is fatigue. Sometimes they isolate themselves, or people say, well, they are isolating themselves. But really what they're experiencing is they're experiencing fatigue, because when a person experiences pain, the body is trying to protect them and try to bring healing to their body. So the mind really doesn't differentiate between physical pain and emotional pain. Pain is pain. And so the body uses a lot of energy trying to protect itself. And so people get fatigued really easily. So they don't have enough energy, maybe a motivation. So those are all symptoms of grief, but there's many, many more symptoms.